I'm James Anding. I'm a junior product manager here on the civil team. And I'm going to cover some of our kind of new functionality in drainage and utilities that we've added over the past few releases, and maybe a little bit of stuff that we will add this quarter. Fingers crossed. So before we get into the good stuff, we're going to start with a disclaimer statement. Release plans are for and projections only. There can be no assurances that Bentley will be able to meet such estimates or projections by the date specified or at all. So don't make any purchase decisions on forward-looking roadmaps. This is just to make sure that you don't go buy any Bentley stock based on what we talk about here, because of course our plans can change. So just a reminder on that. So we're going to be highlighting new drainage and utilities tools starting back from 10.11 and coming to the new 2023 release. There were also some significant changes in the last 10.10 minor release, which we've included. We know that there's a lot of users out there still on 10.10, so we want to make sure everyone's up to speed on the newest functionality, as we know DOTs out there are looking to upgrade in the near future. So there was a lot of work in stability, so we'll start there. So we heard from you that the drainage and utilities functionality in ORD versions from 10.10.20 to 10.11 onwards is more stable, and this is partially because we are no longer loading drainage and utilities databases from reference files. However, the potential existence for code to become confused about which database it was writing to still kind of existed, and for similar reasons, restricting the software so only that one DU project can be created per design file as opposed to one per 2D model also helps with stability. So we've kind of changed some of the backend there to help with stability, making sure that code wasn't writing to the wrong database file, make sure everything's streamlined there, make it a lot easier for the usability and make sure your files stay relatively clean. This change also improved the time at which it takes to open drainage DGN files, especially if you're using ProjectWise. For the reference databases to load, they first had to be extracted from the DGN, which was pretty slow. We've heard some examples where users were waiting for 5 to 10 minutes for a drainage file to open. And this was kind of the cause, so we've taken that time to improve some of the drainage, especially if there's multiple drainage databases in there. We made that change so that now only one drainage data can be in a DGN instead of one per 2D model. Because of issues prior to version 10.11, it was possible for graphics and databases to become out of sync with each other. Occasionally, the hydraulic calculations had an issue with an element that existed in the database but did not in the CAD graphics. To resolve this, we added a model integrity check in 10.11, and this extended into newer versions as well to identify elements which are out of sync to help you resolve that conflict. Usually we would recommend deleting them and replacing them, but it can help you figure out how to fix it. We also did work around the way undo works in drainage and utilities, honoring the internal transactions that occur so the databases are kind of safer from undo actions. We know that sometimes sometimes things would be undone from the CAD graphics but wouldn't be removed out of the DGN, or I'm sorry, out of the database. So we've made sure that those transactions are more in lockstep. We've also implemented support for auto-saving. This isn't specific to drainage and utilities. It's a generic across civil, but it means that a save is occurring automatically. As sometimes we would hear that a lot of work would be done. Sometimes files would close or crash, and then work was lost. So this should help alleviate some of the uh, any of those kind of concerns. We also did a little bit of improvement around database properties. So the original reason for loading drainage and utility databases from references is so that you could access the database properties from plants for plants production. Having removed that functionality, we had to add a different approach. So it was great, right, when we could load your databases through the reference files, but that was really slow because then it had to make copies of those databases, and you could only have up to 10 just for stability purposes, and it would kind of bloat your file. So when we axed that capability, right now, how are you going to do plants production if you can't read the hydraulics results? So what we've added is more properties in the kind of CAD properties side of open roads, not the drainage part. The drainage kind of storm CAD properties more into the open roads properties, and that will also kind of discover them, make them, I guess, more discoverable for item types and expressions. So it makes it a lot easier for building annotations based off of drainage results and hydraulic calculations. We know that for a plan and profile, sometimes you all have to go in and annotate stuff like that. So we do have a solution as you would migrate maybe some of your standards from the older drainage database version to the more drainage on the CAD side. All right. So the advantage of the item types is that you can choose which properties you want to add, and we don't think that many of you will want to add very many, partially because there's only so much annotations you can physically fit on your plan sheet, and partly because the hydraulic data is of limited interest outside of the drainage discipline. So it's up to you to build kind of your own annotations. So this also is a little bit more flexible than what we had before, because here you can kind of customize the text a little bit more for your expressions that go into your annotations. Okay. We've also added some drainage import functionality, particularly for the 2023 release. We heard that keeping your working files, your design files in sync as DGN libs is being developed is an issue for you. So we've added 2 new tools to help with this. You can now import prototypes from DGNs or DGN libs. So you can update a working file from the DGN lib, or if you've created a testing kind of prototype in a working file, you can add it to the DGN lib. So this is really helpful when you need to move a prototype around, either from DGN lib to DGN, DGN lib to DGN lib, in case you need to copy it to a different standards file. Maybe you've built the one-off in your working file, you need to put it back in the standards file. So this will help a lot with maybe refreshes of standards, adding new standards to project files. We've also added the ability to synchronize drainage data across a DGN or a folder of DGNs from the content that's in a source file, which would normally be a DGN lib. Okay, so we can again synchronize drainage data across a set of DGN and DGN from DGN libs. We've also heard that it's difficult to bring GeoPack drainage data forward into the open civil products. So we've done some improvements around that. So I've got a video of that. So go ahead and take a look at that. So we're in a drainage DGN-lib, and we got some prototypes here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new prototype. And we're going to go ahead and duplicate the catchment prototype. So imagine I've just made new changes to the DGN-lib. I need to go synchronize those down to the working file. Notice that in those working file, they are not there, but we do now have an import button. I'm going to go find my DGN-lib. And there we go. It synchronized it back down. Okay. Now the feature definitions aren't there using this, but you can just go in and synchronize your feature definitions as well. And from standards, if there are new feature definitions for these items, and you can kind of wire them up, but at least this way you're getting those database items from your recently added or updated DGN-lib.